I was working the night shift at a 24-hour pharmacy in Stockholm when an American woman, maybe around 55, walked in holding her phone like a weapon. It was past 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. The store was almost empty, except for a university student buying energy drinks in the corner. She marched straight to my counter and said, "I need antibiotics. I've had this sinus infection for 3 days now." No greeting, just straight to the point. She looked exhausted, probably jet-lagged. By the way, I track these cultural clashes full-time so you don't have to. Most people scroll past them, but the ones who subscribe, they start to see the patterns behind every one of these moments. I told her she needed a prescription first. A doctor's appointment. She stared at me like I'd just told her the earth was flat. I don't need an appointment. I know what I need. I get sinus infections all the time back home. Just give me the amoxicillin. I explained our system. She'd need to see a healthcare provider, get examined, then get a prescription. Only then could I give her antibiotics. Her face went red. This is insane. In America, I can just go to my pharmacy and tell them what I need. Or do a virtual appointment in like 10 minutes? You're telling me I have to wait until tomorrow morning? The thing is, she genuinely believed she could do that in America too. She couldn't, but she was so sure of it. I spent 20 minutes explaining our healthcare system while she kept saying this would never happen in the States and showing me her insurance card like it was some kind of magic passport. That same week, I watched an American businessman argue with a train conductor in Copenhagen because he didn't understand why his ticket was invalid. He'd bought a ticket for the wrong zone. Simple mistake. But he kept insisting a ticket is a ticket and couldn't grasp that our public transport uses zone-based pricing. He demanded to speak to corporate. On a regional train, at 7 a.m., then there was the guy in Amsterdam who got genuinely upset that the Albert Heijn supermarket wouldn't accept his €100 note for a €2 bottle of water. He thought they were discriminating against him. He didn't know that most European stores can't break large bills early in the morning. It's a robbery prevention thing. Basic stuff. But he threatened to call the American embassy, or the college student in Prague who walked into a bank with her passport and a Tennessee driver's license, wanting to open a checking account because she was planning to stay for 3 weeks. She couldn't understand why they needed proof of Czech residency. She kept saying, "But I'm a customer. The customer is always right." The bank manager looked so tired. But that was just the beginning. I was working as a rental car agent at the Keflavik airport in Iceland when this whole situation started to make sense to me. A couple in their early 30s walked up to my desk around 4 p.m. on a Saturday. They'd just landed from Boston. The husband did all the talking. He wanted to know the fuel efficiency of our smallest car. I told him it was about 5.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Pretty standard for that model. He looked confused. "What's that in miles per gallon?" I did the math in my head. Around 45 miles per gallon, roughly. He seemed satisfied. Then he asked about the speed limits. I explained that most highways are 90 kilometers per hour. Some areas drop to 50 in towns, so that's like 50 miles per hour on highways? "No," I said. "That's about 55 miles per hour. The 90 limit, I mean." He wrote it down on his phone. Then he asked about distances. How far to the Blue Lagoon? I told him about 50 kilometers from the airport. "So 30-ish miles?" "Exactly," I said. 20 minutes after they left, I got a call. He was at a gas station, furious. He just put in 5,000 krona worth of fuel, and the pump showed he'd gotten about 20 liters. He was convinced they'd ripped him off. He kept saying, "I only got like 5 gallons. This should have cost way less." I had to explain that fuel is sold by the liter here, not the gallon. The price he paid was completely normal. He went quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Man, everything here is in metric. This is going to be a long week." The next measurement disaster I witnessed was at a hardware store in Rotterdam, where I worked part-time. An American graduate student came in needing lumber for a desk project in his apartment. He was specific about dimensions. He needed boards that were 8 feet long, 4 inches wide, and 3/4 of an inch thick. Our lumber was all in centimeters and millimeters. Obviously, I pulled out my phone to convert. 8 feet was about 244 centimeters. 4 inches was roughly 10 centimeters. The thickness was about 19 millimeters. We didn't have exact matches. I showed him what we had that was close. He seemed frustrated but accepted it. Then he needed screws. He asked for 1/4-inch screws, about 2 inches long. I started converting again. He watched me and said, "You guys really don't stock anything in inches?" "No," I said. "This is Europe. Everything is metric." He bought what I recommended. But 3 days later, his roommate came back. Apparently, the American had cut everything wrong because he kept forgetting to convert his measurements. He'd measured everything with an app on his phone that showed inches, then tried to mark it on our metric measuring tape. The whole project was ruined. The roommate needed to buy new lumber, and he was not happy about paying twice. Then there was the woman in a Munich sporting goods store where my sister works. She wanted to buy hiking gear for the Alps. She asked what temperature rating she needed for a sleeping bag. My sister asked what season she was hiking. The woman said late September. My sister recommended a sleeping bag rated for 5 degrees Celsius. The woman's face went pale. 5 degrees? That's insane. I'll freeze to death. My sister was confused. Then she realized the woman thought it was Fahrenheit. 5 degrees Fahrenheit is extremely cold, but 5 degrees Celsius is about 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Cool, but not freezing, my sister tried to explain. The woman didn't believe her at first. She pulled out her phone to check the conversion. Then she laughed, embarrassed. Oh my God. I was about to buy like an Arctic expedition sleeping bag for a fall hiking trip. The temperature confusion got worse when I was working at a small hotel in Seville during a brutal July heat wave. An American family checked in around noon. The father immediately complained that the air conditioning was broken. The thermostat was set to 22. I went to their room. The AC was running fine. The room was cool. I checked the thermostat. It showed 22 degrees Celsius, about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfectly comfortable. The father pointed at it. Look, it says 22 degrees. That's way too cold. We're gonna freeze. Can you set it to like 75? I had to explain that 22 Celsius was already about 72 Fahrenheit. He didn't believe me. He showed me a weather app on his phone. It said it was 40 degrees outside. He'd set it to Celsius by accident and thought it was 40 Fahrenheit outside, in July, in southern Spain. I spent 15 minutes explaining temperature conversion. His teenage daughter eventually Googled it and confirmed what I was saying. He still seemed suspicious, like maybe this was some European scam, but he left the thermostat alone. I was working reception at a hostel in Lisbon when time became the enemy. A backpacker from California, probably around 23, checked in on a Thursday afternoon. She asked what time breakfast was served. From 8 to 10, I told her. She nodded. Then she asked what time the local restaurants usually opened for dinner. Most places open around 7 or 8 in the evening, I said. But locals usually eat around 9 or 10 p.m. Her eyes went wide. At night? That's so late? What do you do for lunch? Lunch is usually between 1 and 3 p.m., I said. She looked genuinely disturbed by this information. So you're telling me if I want to eat dinner at 6 p.m., I'm out of luck? Most restaurants won't be open yet, I admitted. There are some touristy places near Rocio that serve earlier. But traditional Portuguese places? No. She showed up at breakfast the next morning at 7:45 a.m. We weren't serving yet. She got annoyed and said in California, if you say breakfast is at 8, you start serving at like 7:30 for early birds. I told her this wasn't California. The meal timing issue was even worse for an American businessman I met when I was working at a conference center in Lyon. He'd scheduled meetings based on American meal logic. He'd planned a breakfast meeting for 7 a.m. Almost no one showed up. In France, breakfast meetings aren't really a thing unless it's a hotel breakfast. And 7 a.m. is very early. Then he'd scheduled lunch for 11:30 a.m., way too early. The French attendees were confused. Lunch in France is typically 12:30 or 1 p.m. at the earliest. It's a proper meal, not a quick sandwich at your desk. He'd also planned for the conference to run until 6:30 p.m. with only a 30-minute lunch break. The French attendees were horrified. Lunch here is sacred. An hour minimum, often 90 minutes. People actually leave the building and sit down to eat. By day 2, he was frustrated that no one was following his schedule. He didn't understand that he'd built an American conference schedule in a French context. It just didn't work. Then there was the retired couple I helped when I was doing tour guide work in Athens. They'd signed up for a 10 a.m. historical walking tour. They showed up at 9:30 a.m. and seemed annoyed that we weren't starting yet. The husband said, "We're early. Can we just get going? We have lunch plans at noon." I explained that the tour was 3 hours long. It would end around 1 p.m. Their noon lunch wasn't going to work. He looked shocked. 3 hours? Your website said it was a morning tour." "It is a morning tour," I said. "It runs from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's morning." "That goes into lunchtime," he said. I didn't know what to tell him. In Greece, 1 p.m. is still morning-ish. Lunch is often at 2 or 3 p.m. The concept of lunchtime being strictly 12 to 1 p.m. is an American office culture thing. It's not universal. They ended up taking the tour but missed their noon reservation. They were grumpy about it. They left a review saying the tour was too long and poorly scheduled. But the tour length was clearly stated on the website. They just hadn't adjusted their expectations. The punctuality problem was different in Germany. I was working at a small architecture firm in Berlin, and we had an American intern for the summer. Great kid, smart, but he had this habit of showing up at 9:03 or 9:05 for our 9 a.m. team meetings. In America, apparently, being 5 minutes late is basically on time. It's close enough. But in Germany, if the meeting is at 9, you're there at 9, preferably at 8:58. After 2 weeks, my boss pulled him aside. She explained that his lateness was noticed. It was considered disrespectful. He was genuinely surprised. He said back home, meetings never actually start exactly on time. There's always a 5-minute buffer for people to get coffee or chat. Not here. He adjusted, but he told me later he thought German punctuality was a bit much. He couldn't understand why 60 seconds made such a difference. I was working at a cafe in Copenhagen when the payment systems became a battlefield. An American woman, maybe in her 40s, ordered a coffee and a pastry. The total came to 58 kroner, about $8. She handed me a €100 note. "I can't accept euros," I told her. "We only take Danish kroner or cards." She looked at me like I was insane. "We're in Europe. This is European money." "We're in Denmark," I said. "We use kroner, not euros." She got defensive. "I was in Germany last week, and they took euros everywhere. You're all in the EU, right? Same money." I had to explain that not all EU countries use the euro. Denmark has its own currency. Sweden has kroner. Holland has zloty. She didn't believe me at first. She thought I was trying to scam her. Eventually, she paid with her credit card. But she left a comment card complaining that we should accept European money in a European capital. She literally didn't understand that the EU and the Eurozone aren't the same thing. The credit card problems were even messier. I was working at a small boutique in Prague when an American student tried to buy a sweater. Her card got declined. She tried 3 times. Same result. She was embarrassed and confused. "I know I have money. This card works." I asked if she'd called her bank to tell them she was traveling. She looked at me blankly. "What do you mean?" "Your bank," I said. "Did you notify them you'd be in Europe? For fraud protection, they might block international transactions if they don't know you're traveling." She had no idea this was a thing. She'd been in Prague for 4 days. Her card had worked at some places, but not others. She thought check machines were broken. She didn't know her bank was randomly blocking transactions because they thought her card was stolen. She had to call her bank right there in the store. Spent 30 minutes on hold. Finally got it sorted. But she was furious that no one told her about this. I didn't have the heart to tell her that every travel guide mentions it. It's basic stuff. Then there was the guy in a Stockholm grocery store where my cousin works. He wanted to pay cash. He had Swedish kroner, actual correct currency. But the store was cashless. No cash accepted at all. He freaked out. What do you mean you don't take cash? Cash is legal tender. You have to accept it. My cousin tried to explain that many Swedish businesses had gone completely cashless. It's about efficiency and safety. No cash means no robbery risk, no counting errors, faster checkout. He argued that it was illegal, that businesses were required by law to accept cash. My cousin told him that wasn't true in Sweden. Private businesses can choose their payment methods. He left without buying anything, said he was going to report the store to whoever handles this stuff. My cousin watched him go and just shook her head. The paperwork nightmares were worse. I was helping out at a doctor's office in Amsterdam when an American expat came in for a regular checkup. He'd been living in the Netherlands for 6 months. He handed over his insurance card from his American insurance company. The receptionist told him we needed his Dutch health insurance information. He said he didn't have Dutch insurance. He had American insurance. It should work everywhere. She explained that it doesn't work that way. If he was living in the Netherlands, working here, he needed Dutch health insurance. It's mandatory. His American insurance wouldn't cover routine care at a Dutch clinic. He got angry. He'd been going to doctors for 6 months, showing his American insurance card, and apparently just getting lucky that no one had checked properly. Now he owed money for multiple visits. Plus, he was technically breaking the law by not having proper Dutch insurance. He couldn't understand why his American insurance wasn't valid. He kept saying, "But I'm American. My insurance is through my American employer." As if nationality trumped local law, the receptionist spent an hour helping him figure out how to register for Dutch insurance. He left looking defeated and confused. The whole system was different from what he was used to, and unlike a language barrier or a cultural misunderstanding, this one had actual legal and financial consequences. I was working the front desk at a small hotel in Krakow when I got the story I'll never forget. It was about 10 p.m. on a Sunday. An American couple walked in, no reservation, looking exhausted and frustrated. They'd spent the entire day trying to do laundry. Sounds simple, right? But here's what happened. They'd gone to a laundromat in the morning, but it was closed. Sunday closing laws. Many businesses in Poland don't open on Sundays, or they have very limited hours. It's a cultural and religious thing, so they'd walked around trying to find another one. They'd found one that was open, but it was completely self-service. No attendant. All the instructions were in Polish. They didn't know how to operate the machines. The payment system required a Polish phone number to send a verification code. They couldn't use it. They'd tried 3 more laundromats. Same problems. They'd asked their previous hotel for help. That hotel didn't have laundry service available on Sundays. Staff was minimal. They'd finally found a place that would do wash and fold service, but it would take 2 days. They needed clean clothes the next morning for a business meeting. So now they were at my hotel, asking if we had laundry service available immediately. We didn't. Not at 10 p.m. on a Sunday. The wife looked like she might cry. "Sue, we just need clean clothes. This would take 20 minutes in America. There's a laundromat on every corner. They're open 24/7. You just throw your clothes in, pay with a credit card, and you're done." I felt bad for them. I really did. But I also couldn't change the fact that Poland isn't America. We don't have 24/7 laundromats everywhere. Sunday is a day of rest here. Systems are different. I ended up calling a friend who runs a small cleaning business. She agreed to come pick up their laundry and have it ready by 7 a.m. the next morning. She charged them extra for the emergency service and the Sunday pickup. They paid without arguing. They were just relieved. As they headed to their room, the husband said to me, "Man, we really took American convenience for granted." And that's the thing, isn't it? American systems are built around constant access, instant service, and individual convenience. A lot of the world isn't built that way. Different priorities, different histories, different values. These stories keep coming. Every week, someone breaks a system they didn't know existed, or expects a system that doesn't exist here. It's not about Americans being clueless. It's about assumption. When your home system is the only one you've ever known, you assume it's universal. It isn't. The pharmacy in Stockholm still gets Americans asking for over-the-counter antibiotics. The rental car company in Iceland still gets confused calls about liters and kilometers. The Copenhagen cafe still has to explain that euros aren't universal European currency. And me, I'm still here, working these jobs, watching these moments unfold. Sometimes frustrating, sometimes funny, always educational, because these stories, they never stop coming. These stories never stop, and neither do the insights. I unpack new ones every week so you can see the world with sharper eyes. Subscribing doesn't help me. It helps you stay 3 moves ahead of the next cultural collision.